Hello everyone, I'm back with another Reddit Addicts episode. If you find my videos entertaining, please kindly subscribe and like them. Thanks to everyone for your suggestions and kind notes. Now, let's get started with today's exciting stories.
My wife, 32F, has been having an affair, and I'm broken. My wife, 32F, and I, 30M, got married in September 2018 after being together for 3 years. Right before our honeymoon, we bought a house together in VA, and after we got back, pooled our remaining money and time to completely redo her old starter home in MD, and sold that in early 2019. We both work full-time jobs in Virginia. I make pretty good money, she makes even better money. My wife, let's call her Katie, decided to pursue an MBA and started last fall. She had an educational trust that her parents started for her, and therefore didn't ask me for any financial assistance. However, because I saw how time-consuming the MBA was on top of her already large professional workload, I took it upon myself to take care of everything related to our still relatively new home, including dealing with contractors, managing all our bills, maintaining the house, taking care of our dog, purchasing/assembling furniture, yard work, cooking, cleaning, laundry, and hosting/entertaining her family that insisted on coming over at least 2 weekends every month. Lately, Katie had been unhappy with our relationship, complaining that I wasn't spending enough quality time with her and not making her feel wanted. I tried to argue several times that between her work and studies, and my work and home responsibilities, that there simply wasn't very much time to spend together in general. We would frequently not even get to eat dinner until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, and I would either need to bring her a meal to her home office, or we would quickly eat together, and she would return to schoolwork to study or percolate in group projects/session. She would argue back that the things I was doing around the house were simply my responsibility as a husband, and that while she appreciated it, it didn't count towards me trying to maintain or build our relationship. We'd also been arguing a lot about other things, and combined with the lack of free time, would be intimate maybe once a month. But after one particularly emotional and drunken conversation about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, I vowed that despite what I already thought was prioritizing her needs, that I would go even further. I began to take off work. I, unlike her, still had to go in during COVID, or go in late/leave early, stopped seeing friends, skipped workouts, and would even wait until she was occupied with something else to even take a shower. Also, I could spend as much available time as possible with her between her obligations. As a result, things seemed to be slightly improving between us. And now we arrive at last Wednesday. As per usual, I was making dinner for us. We have a tablet in the kitchen that I primarily use for recipes. As I was finishing up, the tablet began pinging nonstop, and I checked out what was happening. As it turns out, the tablet is linked to her Google credentials, and I first saw an ongoing Hangouts conversation between Katie and a friend, discussing what to do about someone's wife who had come to our house that day while I was at work. Scrolling through the conversation history, I found more about Katie's lack of feelings for me, and the longing and dreaming to instead be with some guy, who we'll call Luke. Physically shaking at this point, I decided to venture away from Hangouts and open her Gmail, where I found several emails, going as far back as March, between her and Luke, calling each other babe, sweetheart, and my love. Unsure about what to do next, I first took screenshots of everything I could find, then stepped outside to call the only person with law experience that I knew, an executive at my company who I'd become friends with. He advised that I immediately confront her, but first call someone to come over to the house to act as a witness, in case things became physical, or if she might later try to claim they did. So I had a friend over in about 20 minutes, I confronted Katie, and she confessed to the relationship and admitted that they had been intimate several times over the past 4 months, both at hotels and in our home. Now completely distraught, I tried to maintain my composure, and asked her to leave. She stayed at a hotel for 2 nights, then despite my protest, came home on Friday, stating this was her house too. She insisted on talking when she returned, and not having a witness this time, I decided to record the entire conversation on my phone. She tried to reiterate that she had been unhappy, but despite that, had been reaching out to her friends and mother about suggestions and resources she could use to help our relationship, even though I had suggested counseling in the past, but she refused. She tried to tell me that she made a mistake, that she had already broken it off with Luke a week ago, that I was the only person she wanted to spend her life with, and the only reason she hadn't told me about it was because her friends had advised her not to. She also said that if we truly love each other, that divorce was a mistake, and that we should be able to get through anything. I replied that love is worthless without trust, and then said that if she insists on staying here, to please stay in the guest room. Obviously free usage of her home office and the guest bathroom, but to please stay out of our bedroom/bathroom unless telling me first. So now I'm here, sitting in my house alone with just my dog. Her and her aunt/uncle/cousins are currently at our neighbor's house for a barbecue. They don't know about what she did. I can't bear to go over there because I don't want to talk to or even look at Katie, much less pretend in front of a bunch of people that nothing happened. 90% of me wants to get a divorce, but despite her feelings, I was very happy with the life we were building. We had even been talking about being pregnant by this time next year. But no matter what I decide to do, I know I don't want to make that decision without getting more information about what I can do, what might end up happening if we proceed, and I definitely want to talk to a few VA lawyers to protect myself. We only have one joint account with less than $20,000 in it, and the only asset we share is our house. So that's it. I'm sorry for writing so much. If you've made it this far, thank you for reading. And I would really appreciate any and all insight, suggestions, or advice. I just feel completely destroyed, empty, and alone. Please help me. Edit. I am absolutely stunned and overwhelmed by the level of support you all have shown me. I truly can't believe that Olive would take the time to offer your advice, kindness, and wisdom to an absolute stranger. I am doing my best to read every one of your replies, and from the bottom of my somewhat shattered heart, thank you. This has been an unbelievable light in the darkest time of my life. Story 2. Me, 34M, with my wife, 32F, of 5 years. I know she's cheating on me. I can't bring myself to confront her. I, 34M, met my wife, 32F, 7 years ago at a party. She was the out-of-your-league girl no one hit on, and I was the awkward boy in the corner trying to not stare. Eventually she was introduced to me by the host, we bonded over a shared love of darts, went on a few dozen platonic outings together, and after one beer and darts-filled night a year later we wound up in her bed and in a relationship. A year later she proposed to me. She's the power person in our relationship. I am working as a chocolatier. She's a vice president in a larger corporation. She works long days and longer nights. I cook and keep the house clean, and work 5 days a week in a small artisanal shop downtown. We're pretty high-end, so I am making good money, but she's making way more than twice of my salary. So she buys the toys for the house, including a new set-top box for the TV. The set-top box has a screensaver mode where it rotates pictures in your Apple photo library. Last week, she was still at work. I came home from my day and the TV, which I'd used to watch a YouTube video that morning and definitely had turned off, was on screensaver. On it were pictures that must come from her phone, showing her, in our living room, one of our female friends, and a guy I've never met in very explicit poses. The pictures moved around the room, so I think there must have been a fourth person, taking pictures with her phone, but I didn't see that person. What was weird, was that she was wearing a bandage on her hand, something she'd done that morning after complaining about RSI. I left the TV on and was very shocked, but decided to leave the screensaver and see what she had to say when she came home later that evening. When she came home, the pictures seemed to have disappeared. They haven't shown up anymore since then on the TV. I asked her if she'd been home during the day, because the TV was on, and she said she'd come home during lunch to pick up a USB stick she'd forgotten in her computer at home. I tried to ask her about the pictures, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Now, I have to add something. I am not a very experienced person in sex matters. I am an introvert and barely had relationships before her. Our sex life is, though, even for my experiences, very vanilla. I never have had oral sex in my life before and only twice since we met. Suggesting it to her usually meant that she'd lecture me about not doing those things, and sex for the night was a no-go. In those pictures, she did all the things she never wanted to do with me. Since that day, I have tried to confront her a number of times. She stays out longer, lately, not just since last week, for the past 4 months maybe, and she's often too tired for anything romantic, even just cuddling, and when she comes home, she often disappears in her office and comes to bed long after I have fallen asleep. But even during the time we had together, like this weekend, I can't bring myself to confront her. I am worried about what I might hear and what this would mean for our relationship. I still love her very much and can't imagine a life without her. How can I summon the courage to do this? Is there a way out of this? Update. So, lots to tell. First off, however, a few things. Before I wrote this, I didn't know what a red pill was. Now I do. I kind of wish I didn't, but a few dozen messages kind of made that happen. You know those debt solution letters you get when you're known to the county to owe money? That's how those things came in, fast and furious. Some others assumed that my throwaway having the word red in it meant that I was a sock puppet for them. I am not. I don't think they've got a solution that isn't worse than the problem it pretends to fix. Well, what happened? I left the house that evening for a walk, she wasn't home, and called around for lawyers. It was pretty late already, and I got a lot of voicemail, but one picked up. She asked me to get empty financial statements and a lot of other things together and see her the next morning. I then decided to confront my wife that evening. That didn't happen. She came home very late and disappeared to take a bath almost right away. I snuck into her office and took her phone out from her purse. It had a fingerprint scanner, but her PIN was the same as she uses for the garage and our safe, which she set up, so that was easy. There was nothing on the phone that I could find. Pictures in Apple Photos and Google Photos were all from things we'd done together and some for her job. No messages or so, either. Just as I wanted to put the phone back, her bag buzzed. She has another phone. That one is an Android and had a pattern, so I couldn't log in. But on the screen was a message, phone number only, no name, with a love on it. Put that back. Decided to postpone confrontation until after lawyer, but took a photo of the message. Next morning, I talked to the lawyer and she spent about half an hour to just go over possible outcomes and what I can expect next, then another 45 minutes talking about finances and so. We don't have kids, and she's the big earner, so I stand to either be just out of the relationship or be out and owed some money. It'll be months, maybe even more than a year, until all this is dealt with. Takes 5 minutes to marry, a year to unmarry, it seems. I'd walked by my work and told boss, and I was sick. I look like shit, from not sleeping and some crying, so that was pretty convincing. We work in food, being sick is a bad idea at that job. Went home and unplugged the Apple TV and took it to a friend who runs a small computer store. He confirmed what you'd told me, the pictures on the screensaver are from her Apple Photos. He's also the first I told, and he immediately offered me to stay at his place with his wife and kids if I had to leave for a while. Then he called the number the text on my wife's other phone came from and told me a guy named Rob had answered it. Walked home and texted her if she'd be home for dinner. She texted back that she'd have to do some extra work and it could be late, so I told her to please make an exception and come home. I had important news. We'd been looking for a house for a while. I figured she'd think I finally found one. Well, dinner came and went, and she didn't show. She came home around 10, smelling of cigarettes. She was all happy and asked me what I wanted to talk about, so I asked her to sit down. I'm 99% to making something up about a house and avoid the confrontation, but then, I guess for the first time, I felt a little anger. So I told her. I said, I know you've been cheating for a while, now. I've been working with an attorney and we'll have to talk about these things at some point, so now is as bad a time for that as ever. She didn't blow up and deny it. She just deflated and started to shake. A lot of your PMs, my attorney, and my friend, all told me not to press for details, and not put that on me as well. But I really wanted to know, so I said, tell me about Rob. She told me they'd met through the friend on the couch with her, and wanted to have sex with him while he had a crush on my wife, so they hatched this threesome plan. That was 14 months ago. Apparently, they've since included Rob's wife. That's the mysterious fourth person who took the pictures, who was polyamorous with that Rob guy. The picture thing was solved, too. She'd handed the wife her phone to take a few pictures and didn't remember the whole screen blanker thing. When she was at work, she'd uploaded them and deleted them from the phone. By then, by chance, I'd seen them. She had the second phone for precisely the reasons I thought, as one that isn't on our shared contract where I couldn't see the incoming and outgoing calls in my statement. She also had short affairs with other women and a few men, and most of her weekend work things were actually her and Rob going on short trips together. Through all this, it felt like she was giving me as much detail as she could in an effort to hurt me, and it worked, but I think I kept a pretty good poker face. I told her that I would leave the house, that I had photographed and cataloged everything and was hoping for an amicable separation. She simply declined, told me she'd leave and take a hotel for the time being, and put her keys on the table. She packed a few things and left. That was it. As this one guy /you/Juster says, it was like the dentist, it hurt less than I thought it would but still hurt damn much. Today I have about 15 missed calls from her and 150+ messages, all asking me for forgiveness and if we could make it work again. I agreed to meet her next week, but only to divide our possessions. As far as I am concerned, this is over. Except for my one friend no one knows, yet, and I want to wait with making it public knowledge while I sort my stuff here and decide how I go from here. Might actually be hitting the gym, no intentions for a rebound relationship, and the rest we'll see.
We hope you enjoyed this story. Thanks for watching and hope to see you in the next video. And before you go, please be sure to subscribe for more.